It is already the 2nd of March in 2020, and we are back here at Dighton's Community Corner after an absence of 4 months. Sometimes life gets in the way, and scheduling is sometimes a little tricky. Our guests have busy schedules, and the wonderful folks at the cable station all have full-time jobs. However, the meantime has shown the winter slipping by us without too much of any real winter at all. The lowest snowfall total in years, and not much really deep cold either. But watch out, March can be a different story. We are planning to be back on our once-monthly schedule of tapings starting this month, so you can all look forward to some fun visits, emotional, entertaining, I hope, and well worth your time to visit here. On this March the 2nd, which happens also to be the official second day of spring in the year 2020, which is a leap year, we have a very special guest with us. Jocelyn Tavares, our librarian, is here to talk about several things and share some vision about our wonderful little library. Before we begin, however, let's join in the Pledge of Allegiance as we recognize the great country we are privileged to live in, fortunate to be sharing America's vision and the freedoms rarely known in the history of the world. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, Jocelyn.
Hi.
It is great to have you with us tonight.
Great to be here.
We have just a few quick announcements before we begin. Tomorrow, March the 3rd, from 7 in the morning until 8 o'clock, in the elementary school gymnasium, is the presidential primary voting election. Please, 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 exercise the freedom of your right to vote. No one cares how you're thinking, what your voting direction is. Please, go and vote. On March 22nd, Sunday afternoon, at 1:20 in the afternoon, the Dighton Community Church on Elm Street will be holding a talk in conjunction with the 250th anniversary of that old church, which was Dighton's second church and the first church in town that was not a meeting house. Kathy Potter of the Rehoboth Minutemen will tell us about the American Revolution, stories you know, and some that you've never heard. There will be some surprises, that's for certain. The talk is free of charge, and everyone is welcome. And if you want to come in costume, come in costume. On Tuesday, March the 24th at 6:30 p.m. in the Old Town Hall, the library will present a wonderful program, Why the 2020 Census Matters to Dighton. Jocelyn will tell us more about that in a few minutes. On Saturday, April 11th at 9 o'clock in the morning, the Dighton Fire Department will hold its open house at the Main Street Fire Station, 300 Main Street. You can't miss it. It's the only fire station on the street. They will offer blood pressure screening, stop the bleed demo, try that again, I have it printed, safe information, along with station and apparatus tours. The Dighton junior firefighters will be there also to discuss their program. On Sunday, April the 26th, starting at 1 o'clock p.m., the Town of Dighton will accept from his descendants the gift of the Medal of Honor that was awarded to Frederick Charles Anderson, a young private in the Union Army in the Civil War. He was only the third person ever awarded that highest American military honor. The presentation will take place in the Unitarian Cemetery behind the church on Elm Street. And in conjunction with this event, there will be a Civil War brass band concert by the Providence Brigade Band from 2:15 to 3:15. That will be presented by the Dighton Community Church in partnership with the town in recognition of the church's 250th anniversary. Refreshments will be served. The historic event is free of charge, and guests are invited, if they want to bring their chairs and blankets and a picnic lunch, if you wish, to sit on the lawn and enjoy the band concert. Weather permitting, of course. If raining, it will be indoors. And so now, to talk with our very special guest, Jocelyn Tavares. I'm so very glad to have you here with us at the Community Corner. Jocelyn, welcome.
I am so happy to be here, and thank you so much for giving me and the library the opportunity to share what's happening. And thank you, Cable, so much for allowing both of us to be here tonight.
We're very fortunate, definitely.
Where to begin?
Well, I know that the library is very active, and it's a vital part of our community, and there's lots going on there each and every week. In fact, I understand that this month is March Madness.
That's
with
correct.
Voting every Monday. So I'm pretty sure you have something to tell us about March Madness.
A few years ago, we started our round of 64. We officially started last week. The first year, only because they're 64, we had to get it through the end of March. But we officially started with Dighton's favorite book.
Mm-hmm.
And we've evolved. This year, we're pitching beloved children's books against their movie adaptations. So this year, we're in our second round. So you'll find matchups like the Mary Poppins movie versus A Bear Called Paddington, the book.
Mm-hmm.
That's what made, the second round.
Fun stuff.
We have our brackets are the unforgettable bracket, our young adult teen bracket, sci-fi and fantasy, animal bracket, YA series bracket, so Harry Potter, the series isn't in the same
That's a
bracket
big
as
one
the
these
teen
days.
one, right? The children's series, animated brackets, which are things like the Jungle Book movie versus the Grinch movie, the classics. I think those are our rounds. So it's second round this week, and you can make your picks online on our website or on our Facebook page, but you can also come in and get a paper bracket to fill out and leave with us. And if you do that, you have a chance to win a little prize each week.
Oh, that's special. That's
Yes,
really
and
nice.
At the end of our series, then you get a little bit of a bigger prize. But
That sounds like fun.
it's a lot of fun. We get excited putting it together every year, and we get excited. It's fun to see everyone get excited with us. So
I think your responses must be interesting.
oh yeah, it's a lot of fun to we kind of watch the results come in, and it's very exciting where we get down to the literal 50-50, and we're waiting for the next pick to So we like to have a lot of fun at the library.
Yes, I know you do.
We encourage everyone to participate in our March Madness.
I think that's a wonderful idea. My goodness. I have a couple of great-grandchildren who spend quite a bit of time there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And believe me, they love the library.
We love them. We have a good time with them.
If children start at an early age, and my great-granddaughter is now only 5, I think she's been going since she was 2, and Riley as well. If they start at the library at an early age and they get into the learning mode through reading, they open a door that's there for them for the rest of their lives.
Right.
There's no question about it. And they can direct their interests and find the things that appeal to them and follow up on them.
Right.
And with resources that aren't readily available if you walk into a store or something like that. The library has so much variety and such a broad base that they can learn from. And they start by playing and they're having fun. They love it. I know they do. And there are lots of other children who feel the same way.
Well, on that point, we do, I have this is where we get into trouble. I'm going to tangent off. We have a couple of programs for young children. We have our toddler story time every Monday at 10:30, where we do share language and songs and games for, we say 18 months to 3, but we really take any young child with their parents, and they get to meet and see other young children and share language and songs and movement and dance. And it's important for socialization, and it's important for modeling language and hearing it, and
Yes.
playing little learning language games and songs and clapping and movement. But we also have our 1,000 Books Through Kindergarten program. And it's not so important that you read 1,000 books before kindergarten. It's a great milestone if you can get there. And if you can repeat, I mean, we allow you to repeat the same books because we know how little kids are.
Really like it, yeah.
But it's more the encouragement for parents to start reading to their kids early, because we know little kids are sponges, and they
Oh,
pick
yes,
up,
they are.
they pick up language and they pick up words, and to model that early learning and literacy so early it's the first step to all of their learning patterns
Yeah, I agree.
that leads to school. So you just kind of,
And they
Maybe
get
one.
into the books that are designed for children in that age bracket, and take the steps as they get older. And they not only learn the stories and so forth, but they learn proper English, and they learn how to construct a story, and
Right.
and just by reading and so forth. It's a wonderful thing when the kids have books in their lives. As a matter of fact, my great grandchildren always know that my Christmas present is going to be something they read. And I might give them something else, but the main thing is always something to read. And I hope that maybe someday down the road they'll pass that along to their children.
yeah.
It's just means a lot to me.
No, I agree. So
You have something that you call the Museum Pass Spotlight, and I think that might be a program we just need to hear a little bit about.
yeah. Our Friends of the Library are the main benefactors of our Museum Pass program. They pay for subscriptions to different area attractions that we are fortunate enough to lend out to our residents and library patrons, so that they can enjoy a day at a reduced rate, or even a free admission to some of these places. So right now we have the Capron Park Zoo.
Oh, my,
We
yes.
have the Children's Museum of Fall River, which is new.
Wonderful.
So that's a nice
I'm
day.
not familiar with that. That's something I would like to.
It's a relatively new, it's a beautiful little children's museum. I think it's in one of the old courthouses downtown.
Oh, I've heard about it. I have heard about it.
And
Yeah.
we have the House of Seven Gables. We have the Massachusetts Park Pass, which allows for free parking at any of the state parks that charge parking fees.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, the Museum of Science, which we have support from the Dighton Cultural
Council. Yes, yeah.
We have Mystic Aquarium and Plymouth Plantation. We just added the Robbins Museum of Archaeology
Oh, my.
and the Salem Witch Museum.
Now, the Witch Museum is always appealing to the kids in the fall.
Yeah.
They get into the Halloween thing, they want to know about the witches and so forth. Witches were a topic year-round, but we seem to tie it into Halloween these days.
Right. And we usually, right now they're closed, but we usually also have the Edaville Railroad Pass.
Oh, wonderful.
Our friends are going to be re-examining that pass to make it work the best way it can for Dighton residents, because it's
Oh,
a
that would-
very popular pass.
Oh,
and
I'm
it has-
sure it is. I'm sure it is.
But we also have, the Peabody Essex Museum has sent us free passes to their museum to see the Jacob Lawrence exhibit, The American Struggle. They have that ongoing from January, well, we're past that, but from now until April 26th.
Oh, that's
And they're
wonderful.
available for free, first come, first serve at the library.
Oh, that's a good
So
one.
if you wanted to combine that with one of our Salem passes, it would be a
Put
good
it all
day.
into one day.
Yeah, so, we try to offer, you can reserve these passes ahead of time.
Uh-huh.
You can do it online or over the phone or in person, and all you need is a library card.
That's a huge benefit because it's costly to do some of these
Yes.
things. It
Yeah.
really, really is. And if you have more than one child, or you have 2 or 3 people who would like to go, these things would help a great
It
deal.
add- yes, it adds
I
up,
can
so.
understand that. That's wonderful. Now, the next thing I have on my list is something that you mentioned to me and something that we really all need to know about, the 2020 National Federal Census.
Yes. Oh, the program that we're having in a few weeks is going to be run by one of our local census reps named Danielle Boulay. But there are some key little tidbits I want to highlight before she gets here to really
Okay, good.
bring home the importance of what this means to Dighton. I think we may all remember that the census does dictate that we get our representatives from each state according to the numbers of people that we count in each area. But it's important because of that reason, yes. But she pointed out to me, and I wasn't sure, I didn't realize this, but Rhode Island is at risk for losing one of their 2 representatives
Oh, my.
this year. So they're really hoping to get an accurate count. And they would go down to 1 representative for their whole state.
Oh, my.
So that's pretty critical when you think about all that's on the line.
Absolutely, absolutely, no question.
So that's something to keep in mind when you get your invitation to fill out the census. Your local governments, whether it's municipal, county, state, they use those numbers for planning, whether it's roads, schools, what have you. And that's pretty important in a growing town like Dighton.
Very, and we are growing.
We are
Growing
growing.
quickly.
And, we do have our annual town census that helps to guide us, but this is also important. The one thing that I really learned that shocked me was how much money the federal government distributes to the states and communities and regions based on US Census data.
It's substantial.
I have a figure
Oh, you just happen to have one, good.
for Massachusetts. If I can get it. In fiscal year 2016, Massachusetts received $22,849,016,142 from Census 2010.
My goodness. Oof.
And that was distributed over 55 federal programs that could filter down to
The local communities.
local communities. That's a significant amount, and I know I'm always of the belief that I feel like southeastern Massachusetts always has to advocate for itself to get any kind of assistance from the state government
Yeah.
or any other source of help.
We're competing against some, excuse me, some heavily populated, large areas. We don't have a large city here.
Right.
And you've got the areas where you've got Boston and you've got Worcester and Springfield and some of these places that have a larger population and they're in a fairly compact geographic area in the state, but just the same, based on their own population information. I can understand why we would not stand at the same
Right.
level for
And-
distribution.
Not to say there's not needs everywhere, but our needs shouldn't be overlooked because we're not counted.
No, exactly.
So that's my appeal. So on March 12th, the Census Bureau is going to be mailing every household an invitation to complete the census. This year, for the first time, you can respond online,
Oh, that would be good.
either, through computer or even on your phone.
They may
or
get a better response
tablet.
that way because so many people now use the online services for
Right.
just about everything they do. And I know people who don't ever pick up a pencil, really, if they don't have to.
Right.
And old folks like me, well, I'll use the pencil, but a lot of, that may really make a big difference in the total,
We're hoping.
yeah.
But I want to put out that the library has computers. If you do need it to fill out your census, you can come to the library to do that. You can respond to the census by phone, or you can do it by mail. There is an official National Census Day, which is April 1st.
Oh, it's April Fool's Day.
I know, I don't know why they did that, but that's
did
okay. And I want to point out, the online form is secure and encrypted, and by law, the census is supposed to be confidential. No one is supposed to have access to your answers by federal law. Answering the census in these ways will keep someone from knocking at your door. So I just want to throw that out there. I don't like to get knocks on my door either, so.
Oh, no, especially in these times. It's kind of, you just never know, really and truly. We're at the point in time where, when my children were growing up, I opened the door and they were out of the house a lot, and I didn't worry about them. Nowadays,
Yeah.
I'm concerned, because
Right.
my kids are now in their 50s, so I don't worry about them so much anymore, but not that way. But just the same, you have to take a different approach to opening your door to someone you might not know.
Right.
And so I think the fact that you can do the census without having that break in your routine is a really good thing to know.
So and then they're still also looking for census workers. There's still a last push if people would like to have an additional employment opportunity or an employment opportunity. They're looking, they have a date of March 7th, which is Saturday. If you're interested, that you can apply online, but if you're interested, I have information at the library for that.
Okay, let's repeat that. If, in fact, you are interested in perhaps working to help to collect the census data, there are positions available, and they're available until the 7th of March. There's information online, but there's also information at the library. So if you're interested and you would like to pursue that, those are two directions you could take. You have until the 7th of this month. So if you're
Right.
thinking about it, you need to do it now.
That's the final push
Yeah.
for getting employment with the census, so.
Good. I think that's a good thing, because there may be people out there who don't even realize that they can get that kind of a part of, well, it's a short-term, part-time kind of employment,
Right.
but it does pay a little bit, and it gives you a chance to learn a little bit more about how things work.
Right.
And I think that's a good thing, too, always.
Right.
So, have we pretty much covered
I
the
think
basics?
so.
Okay. The next topic you mentioned to me is something called This Land.
This is a very exciting thing. So, where to begin? The Theatre Royal UK is staging a production of the Mayflower's journey to the United States, or to America.
That's exciting.
And its impact upon the arrival in America. It's written specifically for this 400th year in Plymouth.
Yes, and I just want to point out that this is the 400th anniversary of the landing in
Yes.
Plymouth. So this is the impetus behind this
Right.
land production.
This is also a sanctioned event of the Plymouth 400.
Oh, it's sanctioned by the Plymouth 400.
So this is a big part
Oh,
of
yes.
the event. This production is written by a gentleman named Nick Stimson, and the songs were written and performed by Seth Lakeman. The production is going to be performed by 120 citizens of Plymouth, UK, and 30 members of the Wampanoag tribe from Massachusetts.
Oh, I think that's wonderful.
30 members of both the Aquinnah and the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. And from what we're told, the story doesn't hold back on either side of the story. It's very factual as it's understood in what we know today. It's not a whitewashing of the history. And for that reason, it's suggested for audiences age 12 and up.
I can understand that because I think basically many, many, many years ago, when I was in school early on, the whole Plymouth story was a happy place. And that's not the actual situation.
Right.
It was anything but a happy place, actually. And so in order for the history to be factual, you need to bring in both elements. There were good things, there really were. Massasoit was a friendly and welcoming Native American. His son, Philip, was not. And in between, we had the factions within the Plymouth colony itself. So, yes, I'm glad that it's not a whitewash.
Yeah, no. But where we fit in all this is that the theater will be filming a performance of the production that we will be showing Dighton Public Library, and a bunch of Massachusetts libraries will all be showing a screening of this production
Oh, that's wonderful.
on Wednesday, June 24th at 6 p.m.
Wednesday, June 24th at 6 p.m., This Land. It's a production about the landing of the Pilgrims, the travel of the Pilgrims. Mark your calendars. That sounds like it should be very, very interesting.
So we're really excited to bring this
Oh, yes.
to Dighton. It's to be a part of the Plymouth 400. So,
And Dighton figures right into that because Dighton lay about midway between Plymouth and Bristol, Rhode Island, along the old Bristol Path. And the travels of the Pilgrims, the travels of the then Indians, Native Americans, came right through Dighton. And the great field where the Native Americans grew their crops, and the council oak where they held their tribal meetings and so forth, right here in Dighton. So we are a big part, even though we're not included in it particularly, we are a big part of this 400-year celebration. And this is something that people in Dighton may not even realize, but we belong right smack in the middle of it because that's exactly where we sit.
no, that's very exciting to bring this to the community.
I think that's wonderful. I'm so glad to know about that. That is very, very exciting. So we'll go on to the next topic. We have library
lineup.
topics here.
The lineup, yes.
We're lining them up. The next one is, and I know people who will love to hear about this one, attracting birds, bees, and botanicals.
Yes, so we are bringing naturalist and landscaper John Root, who's going to bring about, he's going to discuss the roles pollinators play in our
Oh,
ecosystem and how to attract them and nourish them and keep them in our gardens so that we have healthy gardens and we have healthy pollinators and keep the biodiversity in our
That's wonderful.
yards.
That's one. We take these things for granted. Birds and insects are pollinators, and of course bees, definitely. And bees have been threatened.
Right.
And they've been widely threatened. I have friends who have hives, and I had 2 friends who lost their hives this year. And it's some question as to what the cause might have been. Was it something they did? Did they wrap it too tightly for the winter? Or was there some pesticide that they got involved with? Or, there are so many factors. And without bees, we would not have much of a life. They are the premier pollinator all over the world. And I don't know whether you know it or not, but honey is the only food that lasts forever. Indefinitely. They found honey in the tombs in the pyramids, and that honey was just as good as the day it was put in there. It might have been kind of crunchy because it makes a sugar almost, but they found that it was not only still good and safe to eat, but it still tasted the way that it was supposed to. So it lasts for literally hundreds and hundreds of years. Not that doesn't last that long in my house, but
Yeah.
but that's a wonderful. My goodness, that sounds like. Is there a program specifically for that at the library?
Well, that one is Thursday, April 23rd.
Thursday, April 23rd.
At 6:30. And I do want to mention that that program is supported in part by the Dighton Cultural Council.
Oh, that's wonderful. And we need one of these days soon to have somebody come in here from the Cultural Council so that folks in town realize what they do and the tremendous contribution that they make to programs like we're talking about. We've just named at least 2 that they're
Right.
directly involved with. And actually, the 250th anniversary of the church, the Cultural Council awarded a grant for another program that's taking place in May that I'll talk about another time. So, and they work with so many different organizations and so forth. They have limited funds, but they're very
Do a
careful
lot.
about what they do, and they accomplish a lot and do a lot for the community, no question about that.
No.
And they're local folks, all
Yeah.
looking out for our best interests. So that's an important guest. We will have to find someone on the Cultural Council to come and talk
I'm
with us
grateful
one day.
for everything they do for us.
Oh,
so.
yes. Yeah, that's a wonderful, that's a very, very, very good governmental part of the town.
Yeah.
Oh, my. And we have another topic, are we still on birds, bees, and botanicals?
No,
Or
that's,
Okay, you have one more that
more.
really is interesting to me, and actually, it ties in with something that we've talked about a little bit. The topic is discovering your Civil War ancestors. And if you remember, I mentioned Private Anderson, the Medal of Honor winner, who
Right.
was a soldier in the Civil War. I believe he was only 20 when he was awarded that medal. He captured a battle flag, and he was only the 3rd person in the country to receive that Medal of Honor. So that's a pretty special place to be.
yeah.
So, discovering your Civil War ancestors.
We're going to be getting tips for starting research into our ancestors who may have fought in the Civil War
Oh,
and
wonderful.
how to find them. And then our guest speaker, his name is Clay Feeder, and he has several different talks. This is an introductory one to get our feet wet, but he puts the family information that we find into a historical context, so we can kind of get a picture of what life may have been like
Oh, that's,
for our family members who have served. He gave an example of one young soldier who passed away through an injury on a battlefield, and he was able to find enough information that I think the gentleman was from New Hampshire, and that he died, I forget which battle it was. See, I don't have enough information. My memory is awful, but.
Well, no, I have to write those, I understand. This, I don't mean to put you on the spot with this, but,
I should have come better prepared with the story to give it more zing.
well, but the stories are there, and when this presentation happens, there'll be some of those stories.
I think his ancestor wanted to find out if he had gotten married,
Uh-huh.
or if he had any, because his lineage. If for anyone who does ancestry, you know that you find these dead ends.
Oh, yes, oh, yes.
So they were able to successfully find, with his tips, they were able to successfully find why they came to the dead end.
Uh-huh. See, when you get into genealogical research, you're in a maze that really is endless.
Right.
And it doesn't matter which direction you go, there's a dead end. You have to turn around and go back and go another direction to try and get to where you want to be. There are some wonderful, wonderful stories regarding the Civil War, and this isn't specifically about ancestors, but I don't know whether folks out there know the story of taps. And I won't try to name names, but in one of the battles of the Civil War, in the night, there had been many wounded left lying on the battlefield, as always happened. And the cries of one wounded soldier were piercing the night. And he was Southern. He was fighting for the South. And finally, an officer with the Northern troops couldn't listen anymore. And he went out onto the battlefield and brought that young man back to where the Northern troops were. And they knew he was dying, but he just couldn't take the screams. And when he shone a lantern on the face of the soldier, it was his son.
Oh my God.
And the son was a musician. And he, in the pocket of his uniform, they found a series of notes. And I believe he was a captain, the Northern soldier. And when the boy died, he asked if they could give him a military funeral, and he was refused. But they did tell him that he could have a trumpeter, a bugler, and a drummer. And they played that series of notes. And that series of notes is played at every military funeral and has been ever since it was recognized. Those notes were taps.
Oh, I did not know that.
A lot of people don't know that. And I wish I could tell you the soldier's name. I used to, but I didn't write it down, so I didn't. But yes, that is a true story. And several years at our church at memorial time, we have read that story and then closed the service with taps.
Oh.
But can you imagine
Nope.
the effect that must have had on that father?
I am feeling it now. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. So we've got a lot of heroes in this wonderful, wonderful land of ours. We really do. And for all that the young man was fighting for the South, he too was a hero, no question. And I think maybe his father didn't realize who was crying, but that was why he responded so to the cries. Anyway, I don't mean to make this a sad story time. It's just that is a true story. And I used to know the name of the father and the name of the battle, and I can't tell you either one right now.
That's all right.
But anyhow, anyway, I think tonight's time, unless we want to just go one, and we could sit here all night and talk about the library and all the wonderful things we do. But I think our time for this evening is coming to an end. Our terrific cable crew gives me a 5-minute signal, but they didn't get to do that tonight. Please join me as I say a huge thank you to Jocelyn, our librarian. You have given us some wonderful information, and I know we've all learned a lot tonight, no question. And I hope that one day soon you'll come back to visit, because this one has been a real pleasure for me. I hope that everybody out there has enjoyed it as much as I have. And we've got a lot to follow up on, because you've got a lot going on. So if we can get together again in 2 or 3 months and see where all of this went, I'd love to know where March Madness ended up.
Oh, yes. I love that.
So, as I close, I offer a prayer for our country and for those who are fighting the terrible coronavirus. I hope we can find a way to make them well very quickly as our country, and indeed the world, faces this new and frightening health threat. Through it all, please remember, keep smiling, because smiles can brighten anyone's day, and everybody smiles in the same language. This is Myrna Santos, signing off until next time. Thanks for tuning in.